So yeah, we're still at Fort Anne over here, and this is the other board I was talking about. We were just right over there. This is the other board that I was talking, and this is amazing. Like I said, I wish every historic place had something like this where you could just drive off the main road. You had historic boards and information right in front of you, and you just stand here and not only observe the history, but in your mind's eye, you can. I almost imagine as I'm looking out in this cornfield, I'm imagining Fort Anne being right over here, and the British coming to Battle Hill and making their way to the fort. Yes, the fort was burnt, but this is just amazing. I'm glad that Lakes to Locks has put this kind of information here. So kudos to them. So some more of the history of Fort Anne. The Chevelle, I'm not even going to try to pronounce his name, Declarities, Declieries, built a small French fort in South Bay called the Pickets. That's in 1689. 1 year later, Englishman Fitz John Winthrop's expedition camps in Fort Anne. 2 years later, in 1692, Winthrop builds the first fort at Fort Anne, called the Stone Fort. And 1709, Francis Nicholson builds Fort Schuyler and burns it when he departs. 1711, Francis Nicholson builds the Queen's Fort on the ruins of Fort Schuyler. 1757, the same year as the Battle of, the Siege of Fort William Henry and the alleged massacre. The English build the fortification called Fort Anne during the French and Indian War. So 1757, we have in Lake George, which is just northwest of here. We not only have the siege and massacre, the alleged massacre of Fort William Henry, but we have the English building the French fort called Fort Anne. 1758, Queen's Well is dug in the village after 1,000 British soldiers died drinking from Wood Creek. Wood Creek also significant to the French and Indian War and the American Revolutions. In the American Revolution, as the Mohawk would have used it, other regional tribal Indians would have used it as a way to not only gain access to smaller towns, but also gain access to trade and build their small communities and advance their small communities. So in 1763, still pretty much, not necessarily at the height of the American Revolution, but we're getting to a point of where there's not a lot of there is some peace. We've had some fighting. The Black House and Sawmill in Fort Anne are built. Chestar's Mills, now Cranes Falls. We're going to move on here. 1776, planks from Chestar's Mills are used to build ships in Skenesboro, now Whitehall, for the U.S. Navy. 1778, Captain Adele Sherwood builds the fort at Fort Anne. Apparently rebuilds it. The last of Fort Anne's 5 forts. So we have a documentation. There was 5 forts at Fort Anne from the beginning of 1689 throughout 1778. 1786, the town of Westfield is formed. 1788, the settlement of Drewer's Bridge is formed by Thaddeus Drewer. 1790, Colonel Way owns 7 slaves according to the first federal census. Yes, what a shock. There was slavery in upstate New York, right? Well, it was like that until the mid-1800s, and even preceding Lincoln's address at Gettysburg. Let's see. 1792, Ephraim Griswold settles Griswold's Mills and Westfield, named later changed to Tripoli, Tripoli. Westfield actually was the original name for Fort Anne, and then later changed. An 1800 house is built in Westfield, the oldest house that remains in Fort Anne today. This is the Way Slave House. I'm not sure if that still stands today, but that's okay. 1819, the Champlain Canal between Fort Edward and Whitehall is completed. 1820, Fort Anne Village is incorporated. 1827, Fort Anne Village Union Church is built, serving Baptist and Methodist congregations. 1840, Comstock Community Church is established. 1845, Van Warmer's Village, Van Warmertown, changed its name to West Fort Anne. 1848, first train goes through Fort Anne. Now we're going to enter the Civil War. And the Civil War to this part of the region wasn't as critical as it was to the South, but it was critical for one thing, and that was moving troops and moving supplies. And that's why we beat Lee eventually, because we had the troops and we had the supply train. And then you had Sherman's march to the sea, cutting off the legs of the Confederacy, and with the three-pronged military advance, you had Grant, you had Sherman, and Lee's problem with the supplying his troops, and his troops being sickly. And I don't mean to be going on a Civil War talk here, but it is very relevant, especially even Montcalm had problems during the French and Indian War supplying his troops, because remember, he was attacking the British at Fort William Henry, so he had a little bit of problem supplying his troops too. So 1850 in Fort Anne, Way Farms is a stop along the Underground Railroad for fleeing slaves. What a shock! We had the Underground Railroad in upstate New York. First post office was established. 1859, Washington County Fair is held in Fort Anne. Fort Anne Union Free School opens. 1860, the U.S. Cavalry marches through the village, right along Route 4 here. This is Route 4. We believe, once again, Route 4 is a part of the old military road that stretched from all the way down in Saratoga, Albany, all the way up to Ticonderoga. So 1865, Cranes Falls Woolen Mill begins operation. Smith Brothers inherit a company. 1780, Bridgeport Wood Finishing Company is built in Canes Falls. And 1876, about 100 years after the American Revolution, patent issued for quartz coating for wood manufacturing at Bridgeport Wood Finishing Company is established. 1885, Haviland Manufacturing Company opens for business. And some other important facts here. 1911, fire of unknown origin destroys businesses and sections of the village. That was a lot like what happened down in the later part of the 1800s with Glens Falls. They had the two great fires in Glens Falls. Fort Anne did not escape that. They also had their fire there too. 1912, Copeland, one of the only two bars in the state to also contain a package store. Now I just want to move forward here to the time of World War I, World War II, the ending of World War I, or anyway, the beginning of World War II, and nevertheless, but by 1939, Camp Little Notch is established for Girl Scouts. Fort Anne Central School building is constructed. 1940, Boy Scout Troops 46 was formed. And then we can see here that these were spotter cars that they used to identify not only Allied forces during the Second World War, but they also identified enemy forces, and a lot of civilians were used for that practice. And so between 1941 and 1944, Watchtower for spotting enemy planes stands at the edge of the village. 1943, a year later, 40 Volunteer Fire Company was incorporated. 1948, Pilot Non-Fire Department is founded. But I find it's very neat that how I know that these spotters cards were used for civilian. I've done some research, and it was also military trained people that were doing this, obviously, but they would give these cards to certain civilian people, and the civilians would study them, learn them, and if they could identify these planes, that would help the U.S. cause. We obviously won the Second World War. So we're going to go up to Battle Hill. I want to show you Battle Hill, and then we're going to go. I think we're going to stop at the water, the up the road here. Sorry. I'll be right back.